Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 10th ever mentoring talk. To those yet unacquainted, these mentoring talks are delivered by a series of guest speakers who are invited to relay to others their expertise and the experience they have accumulated throughout their lives. What lies at the core of each of these talks is actually what you would least expect from an array of such accomplished individuals. Failure. Yes, failure. Indeed, what benefits students and faculty alike is less the stories of grandeur and glory, but rather those of trial, temperance, and hardship. Different words spoken in the same voice by the masterminds and heroes of history all tell the same tale. Success is simply not possible without first a series of consistent failures. The latest voice to call out with such a message from among a most distinguished list of predecessors, including Nobel Prize laureate, accomplished professors, medical doctors, chief operating officers, among others, is none other than our distinguished TV Arab presenter, Raya Abirached. With her instantly recognizable charm and grace, Raya has been a familiar and welcome face on all of our TVs throughout the years, allowing us too the chance to speak and get to know those movie stars we watch and admire. Although her career is certainly star-studded and perfectly photogenic for those red carpet appearances, do not let the luster distract you from the humbling years of tireless work and effort that went into forging such an appearance. Considering the unfair media bias towards those of Middle Eastern descent, Raya's talents are doubly impressive for not only being remarkable in her own right, but also in overcoming society's undue prejudices as well. In spite of failure and shortcomings, Raya still stands tall and shines brightly for all of the world to see and listen to with attentive eyes and ears. Without further ado, I shall leave the floor to the lady of the hour for her to explain her journey, paved first by upsets and defeats, and ultimately towards fame and stardom. Raya, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you. First of all, is the mic working? This is always the first challenge. Here we go. Test 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Hey everyone, how are you today? Good. Is that the enthusiasm I'm going to get for the next hour? How are you today? We can start again. Yay! It's extremely exciting for me to be here, first of all, because I haven't lived fully in Lebanon for nearly 20 years. So it's beautiful to see AUB and the students of AUB and you guys' ambition and smiley faces and the fact that you want to know more about what's going on in the rest of the world. So thank you for inviting me, Bilal. Professor Kaafarani, is that how I refer to you? Bilal's fine. He called me, he sent me a message, and I was, I think, live on Arab's Got Talent or something, and I got a WhatsApp from him, and his first question was, so, Raya, what are your failures? I looked at my phone like that, and I'm like, okay, that's starting really well. Can you come and speak about your failures in AUB? I'm like, sure, let me just write them down. But he's completely right, and I understand what he's trying to do. He told me, and you guys have to tell me if it's true, that you feel that it's the end of the world if you fail an exam or a class. Who's in that situation? I know. So the first thing this reminded me was my late mother, who was a society woman living in Ashrafiyeh, and who thought, had very preconceived ideas about what I was supposed to do in my life. And so if I had a less than, I don't know, A++ in math, A- was not enough for her. And I remember crying when I was about like 14, 15, because I had A minus or B plus on a math exam. So this is what I grew up in, and I think what you're going through is very cultural. We live in a country that's gone through the war. We live in a country that always is trying to surpass itself, and so we feel that everything is a failure because we live too much in the moment. So I've decided that my very spontaneous mentoring talk today, hi you guys? The mentoring talk today is gonna show you how the failures in my life have become the stepstones of my career. So I will start from the beginning and from my upbringing. I grew up in Beirut, in Ashrafiyeh. I went to the French lycée. I'm French educated. And although I love everything Anglo-Saxon, this is not what I was brought up in. I was brought up in French literature and Molière and Baudelaire and all the things that completely bored me. That was the first failure because I was in the wrong place. And it's only later in my life when I discovered the literature of Tolkien and C.S. Lewis and Jane Austen and all the people that I now come across in movies and books that I really started to find myself. So the first failure that you might feel is being out of place. Never, never hesitate to be a little bit curious about other things in life and find what, your strength is, where your passion is. So this was number one. The second one is that although what I'm doing is completely different, my dream when I was 18 and had my baccalaureate was to go to a school called Sciences Po in France. I don't know if you're familiar with it. And for that, I had to have a mention très bien, which is the equivalent of an A++ mention in the baccalaureate, and I failed it by 0.1 points. Biggest failure at the time in my life. My big project was that I was going to go to Sciences Po, and I was not able to do that. Disappointment. Tick. From that, I applied to ESG, and I decided for some reason to study economics. Economics also was not something for me. It was the expectations of my parents. I know a lot of you are medical students. How many of you are in biology or medicine? Yeah. My mother would have dreamt of me being a doctor. Luckily, my sister is one. She would have dreamt for me to be an engineer. Luckily, my brother is one. I was the black sheep of the family, the middle child who spoke English instead of French coucou. I was completely out of place in the environment of my life, and I discovered afterwards why. So I studied my major in economics and felt a little bit disappointed with the fact that I wanted to go to a much more prestigious school and major than I had. So I thought to myself, maybe it would be a good idea to start working as a hobby. And a friend of mine introduced me to a radio station called RML, which I think doesn't exist anymore. And I started there, and it's really from there that I got the opportunity to get a job in television that I really, really resisted because I had no idea that this is what I wanted to do. But this is how it all started, by me refusing to take that news segment in a music show, not realizing that it was actually going to be the stepstone to the rest of my career. But another failure was that I was fired from this job 3 years on when I really caught the media bug. I was so excited about this job, and I was fired through, half personal reasons, half circumstantial reasons. And this is what prompted me to apply to a university in London. And because I think if I wasn't fired from that job, I would have never really had the courage to try to do something else. From there, I went to London and I did a master's in television journalism because I knew by then that economics was, yes, my major, and it did help me a lot in life. I completely recommend academics, but I had to change my major to something that was much, much more suited to my personality and my prospects for my career, and that was television journalism, and it's the best decision I had done in my life. Then I was in London, and I wanted to stay in London, and I had only, and I say only, I'm very, very proud to be Lebanese, but sometimes for a visa, you need a visa to go anywhere, so a visa to breathe. So I couldn't stay in London if I didn't have a job. Other challenge. I don't want to call them failures because I will explain later that I don't believe in the concept of failure. I think failures are challenges, they're stepstones, they're motivation for something better. And my best friend and I, my best friend is an AUB alumni. She's now an MD in a big bank in London, but at the time, we used to collect the no's from the job requests. We had a pile in our apartment, high like this, of so many No's and no's and no's and no's. For a year, we were looking for jobs, and it was what we call failure after failure after failure. Of course, we were 22, and it's not failure today, but at the time, to us, like some of you, it felt like the end of the world. But what it was a stepstone to what we were going to do later. So I got a job at MBC. And to be completely honest, I didn't realize the opportunity I was given. For me, I wanted to work at CNN, or I wanted to work at MTV, music television, and all the station that it was good and hip to be working for. MBC was still based in London at the time, and I didn't realize I was giving the golden opportunity to grow with a channel and, and witness it become the huge media conglomerate that it is today. And then I was at MBC, and again, I started wanting to do a celebrity show, and no one believed that I could ever interview movie stars. Not the channel, not the people around me, and not these things. And, post 9/11, being a journalist from the Middle East, wanting to interview celebrities, you can imagine how difficult that was. And this was the other motivation, the motivation for showcasing that I actually had talent that might have been different, or let's say, humbly a little bit superior to other people who do these kinds of interviews. And it was year after year and opportunity after opportunity that the doors got, opened up, and then, more movie stars were coming to my show. I was given my show by myself, and it became the flagship show that it is today, which is the Scoop with Raya on MBC2, and it's the biggest Hollywood movie show in the Arab world. So this is how we got to it. It took years and years and years, and throughout the years, the show developed in various ways. So that's on that. And then a few years later, I was offered an opportunity to host Arab's Got Talent. I don't know if, have any of you seen the first season of Arab's Got Talent? That first season of Arab's Got Talent, we had the first live show, and since then there's been a lot of talent shows that have flourished, Arab Idol and The Voice Kids and all these things. The viewers are used to it. But my first episode of Arab's Got Talent, you can research it on YouTube. I was so bad and I was so nervous, and it was, again, a new opportunity for me, that it was another failure. I mean, it was so terrible the way I hosted this season 1, episode 1 of the live shows, that it brought it back to zero to the abilities that I could offer as a presenter of a talent show like that. Through that failure, the working hard opened up other opportunities, and I have now hosted the show for 6 consecutive years. But it is because of that constant insecure feeling that you're not gonna perform to the full that I end up being very motivated actually to perform to the max. It's because of the failures in my life and my career that I am always very hungry to do more, very motivated to work more, very never taking things for granted, never thinking that because you got to a certain point in your career, it's the last thing you're gonna do. It's the last thing you've done. It's not the last thing you're gonna do. So I told Bilal that I don't want to speak about myself for an hour, because I would love you to tell me what you want to know. But my first advice to all of you is to really consider a failure as an opportunity, as a stepstone, as a way to open your eyes to other things that you can do in life, and to the way to do better in life. You should not take it as an ego. I failed and it's the end of the world. It's never the end of the world. And the best comparison I can do is to relationships when you're young. You have a relationship and then it ends and you feel that's it, that your world is over. A few years later, you're wondering, that boy really is like, it's that kind of feeling. Don't live completely in the moment. Use the moment to grow for later. So voila, this is Raya's Advice 101. I did write down, let me see if I missed a few failures. Because otherwise Bilal's going to be very disappointed. Yes, fired, no letters, MBC, Got Talent. Okay, yes. A recent failure is being a mother. It's not a failure, of course, it's the best thing I've ever done in my life. But I constantly, I feel like I don't have enough time for my daughter. I feel like my career is taking me away from my daughter. I feel like, this afternoon she wanted to cuddle with mommy. And I said, no, I have to go to work. I have to go to a UB give it. So what do you mean cuddle with mommy? But this is a very good example. I also don't want her to grow up with a mother at home. I completely love and respect women that stay at home and take care of their families, and this is absolutely no reflection on that. But if I, with my personality, had given up the dream of a career because I became a mother, she would have felt that disappointment. So I am working towards being the optimal mother, the mother that's here when she's here completely. But you know, this comes with a lot of challenges. So even at any level of success, everything in your life will be a challenge that you feel like you may be failing, but actually it's making you grow as a person, and it's orienting you towards something that you would really, really want to do and you're best at. Voilà.
So what Raya would like to have is a more interactive session. So
yes.
There will be questions and she will be answering, and she will be going on. Can you give the 2 microphones? Where Elisa?
And if you can also give me a little bit of background about yourselves, what you're studying, and what you're most scared of.
Okay, one on every side. Here we go. So who would like to start? And don't be shy. Right there.
Hello.
Hey.
So I studied at the UK, so University of Birmingham, Masters in Creative Writing. So
Hey, how are you?
yeah, kudos for choosing London. My question is that you made it seem as if you were like positive all throughout. So you got this failure, and then you move to the next, and then you move to the next. I'd like to know more about, you know, in depth, not just this scoop in general. Like, what were the challenges you faced with yourself, perhaps, or something like that?
Well, I mean, the challenges of being a Lebanese girl who wants to conquer the world are already a huge challenge in themselves. You have the financial obstacle, you've got the passport obstacle, you've got the access obstacle, and in my case, you've also got the obstacle of doing something that had never been done, so I didn't have anything to compare it with. I kind of have this positive attitude about life. I take the positive and the negative the same. The essential thing for me is that it teaches me something. And I'm not saying it's an automatic, easy thing to do, but it is an exercise I try to maintain. So yeah, it was when I moved to the UK, it was mostly financial. I had been working for a few years in Lebanon. My parents did not have the financial means to support a master's in London. They helped me, but I had to finance it myself. And halfway throughout the year, I could have come back if I had spent too much, or if I did not find a job. I would have had to come back and start anew, and that was the reality.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Good luck with yours.
Who's next?
Hello.
Hello.
Abbas. I graduated from AUB last semester from the Media and Communications program. Can I ask my question in Arabic?
Of course.
Is it fine if... okay, so يمكن ندخل شوية English يعني.
فيك كمان تسأله كله بالعربي.
So أنت أثبتت نجاحك ببرنامج سكوب ودراية اللي هو برنامج ثقافي من خلال دراستك الثقافية لأنه you studied also cinema studies.
I did, yes.
In addition to broadcast.
Yes, before I left for London, that's true.
وكمان أثبتت نجاحك ب entertainment talent show, arts talent. كمان بلغتك العربية and بعفويتك on screen, your natural charisma on screen. فهلا arts talent هو بموسمه الأخير وما في بوادر لموسم سابع so far يعني.
بلا مدينة الأسبوع الماضي. بس معك حق، لانه صار لنا 6 مواسم مع نفس لجنه التحكيم ونفس المقدمين يلي ما شفناه بغير برامج. يمكن اداره الام بي سي تقرر انه تغير كليا كل الكاست للبرنامج. وانا كمنتجه كمان بتفهم هالشيء، يعني بعد 6 مواسم يمكن للمشاهدين يكون في هيك نكهه جديده للبرنامج يغيرونا كلنا. It's never over till it's over.
بس أنا بس feedback. I didn't intend to
Are you applying for the job?
Why not? Why not? عنده.
Sorry. إنه فيما لو نقول إنه نفترض إنه season 7 season finale season 6 نقول شو هن الاشياء يلي بتاخديها من هالبرنامج او يلي بتعمليها لتلقطي هالمشاهد العرب اللي كسرتين Arabs Got Talent انه مش كلهم يمكن بيحكوا انجلش او يمكن مش كلهم مطلعين على السينما الغربيه، فشو هن الاشياء اللي بتعمليها لتضلك محافظه على هالجمهور اللي كسرتين Arabs Got Talent يمكن لحتى يلحقوك على MBC 2؟
معك حق، البرنامجين كل واحد مختلف كليا من الثاني. سكوب يعتبر برنامج نيش، يعني المشاهدين اللي بيحضروه بيحكوا انجليزي، بيحبوا افلام هوليوود، هيدا بيخسر شوي الاودينس. برنامج مثل Arabs Got Talent بسميه انا البلوك باستر شو يلي بقدمه، بس ما بفكر كثير بهالشيء يعني، لانه يمكن عم تحكي شوي عن الشهرة أو كيف المشاهدين بيتابعوك. أنا بفكر بالمضمون، إذا ما عندي مضمون مهم قدمه، بفضل ما أقدم لأقدم أو أكون مشهورة فقط للشهرة. أنا بفتكر اكتسبت شهرة كمقدمة برامج بسبب مضمون برامجي، مش بسبب كون تي في بيرسوناليتي أو هالشيء. مش هيك ما بفكر يعني إذا بيخلص Arabs Got Talent بكون استمتعت بالست مواسم يلي قدمتها وفخورة أنه قدمتهم كلهم، بس ما بشتاق له قد ما بشتاق لبرنامج مثل سكوب يلي إذا بيوقف عن الهواء بيحترق قلبي، لأنه أنا بنتجه كمان. يعني 90% من جهدي على سكوب هو الإنتاج مش التقديم، وبرنامج هيك ضمن شخصيتي أكتر. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Right here, please.
فينا نضيف شيء انه اذا بيعرضوا علي اقدم برنامج مثل Arab Idol او The Voice، انا بعرف انه ما بناسبه للبرنامج، بقى برفض حتى لو هي opportunity كثير كبيره انه المشاهدين يحضروه كثير. انا بعرف انه ما فيني اعطي الافضل ما عندي ببرنامج ما بيناسبني. Got Talent بيناسب شخصيتي وبعرف هالشيء، عندي النضج تعرف هالشيء. الواحد ما لازم ياخذ هيك opportunity لانها opportunity، لازم يعرف انها هي جيده له. Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Noor, and I'm Algerian. And
Hi, Noor.
Thank you. First, I want to say that you're such a role model. I've always loved your show since I was like a kid. Not
Thank
saying
you.
that you were old.
No, but that's amazing to me that there are generations of people that have been watching my show.
Yeah.
It doesn't make me feel old at all. It makes me feel experienced, and I really love that.
Sure. I have two questions. First, I'm a media and communication student too. So the first question that I've always like come to my mind when I always see your show, I'm like, how do you get the confidence to communicate yourself with those stars and feel like you're like at the same level as them, and like be able to ask your questions without feeling like, oh, I'm under them, or like I'm a Middle Eastern girl, I don't have like, yeah, that's first. And second is that what is your routine or life advice after messing up or after having a challenge failure? After like doing something wrong and then going back to your room? Is that crying or whatever? That's what I do. So.
Okay, the first question is easy, and as a lot of you are, medical students, I will draw this parallel. When you are experienced and when it's your profession, you're not going to stand in front of a patient and be hesitant about how to give him the right advice about the right medical treatment to have.
They're more pre-med students rather than medical.
So in the future,
they wish to be medical.
Yes.
It's all up to Mahmoud over there.
Mahmoud, be lenient. It is my expertise to interview celebrities. I've been doing it for a very long time. I know my content, I know my movies, I know them. And if I make them feel for a second that I am not feeling up to the task, they will pick that vibe in a jiffy, basically. So the important thing is to sit down and make them feel that you are in control of this interview and you can take out as much information as you want from them, whilst keeping it, and I think humbly that my talent is to put a good atmosphere in the room, sit down, smile at them, and make them feel like they can tell me anything. So it's a very bad idea to make someone feel like you are either in fear or even like a fan. In my profession, it's unprofessional to be a fan. I am a celebrity journalist. It is my business to interview those people, and this is the attitude I have. So that's the first question. The second one, the failures, crying, yes, and sending a million emails to a million people to try to rectify what I think is wrong. And one example is that at some point, Scoop which is now Scoop with Raya, was on MBC One. I don't know if you guys watch MBC One. It's not very watched in Lebanon, but MBC One has become very catered to GCC audiences. And Scoop, in its first format, was very fish out of water on MBC One. And so the channel was thinking of cancelling it. End of my life at the time, 10 years ago. And so I came up with a concept that it needs to become the movie flagship show of our existing movie channel. So from that failure, I created another brand that was much more in its right place. Scoop with Raya belongs on a channel, but it wasn't always on MBC 2. So I fought for it, I fight. So I have a failure, I fight. I send a million emails. My boss, I call myself to her Woody Woodpecker. If there's something that I don't like, I Woody Woodpecker her with anything I can. Voila. Persist. If you are convinced that you are doing the right thing, you have to persist. And you know, a failure is today, it's a success tomorrow.
Very good.
هاي
Hey.
بس كنت بسألك أنت بس قلت لي
Let's stick to English because we're hoping to post it on YouTube and there are, you know, people from outside the Arab world who would watch this.
Really? Is Tom Cruise watching?
It's up to you.
Yes, I'm sure he has nothing else to do.
Go ahead.
Okay, at first when you told your parents that you wanted to travel to UK to study media, back at the time and being a girl and you're traveling alone, what was the reaction and how did you convince them that this is what you want?
That's a very good question because at the time, and I think they don't use the word that much, and to put it in context, you know, again, my mother was a society woman from Ashrafiyya who wanted me to be a doctor or something she could tell her friends over cards. Ironically, my mother never had a career, but you know, she was projecting it on us. So, so when she heard that I was going to be a muzia, which is the word that's very pejorative, muzia means like a, you know, I don't know what they mean by muzia, but it doesn't sound good. مقدم البرامج is much better, but muzia, so she had a bit of a heart attack. And when I told them I wanted to, the only reason I could go is because I had put enough money aside to finance it. Otherwise, they would have supported me because my parents are very supportive, but not wholeheartedly. And I remember a story a few years later where I was at the Oscars interviewing Nicole Kidman, and it was like the first time I did the Oscars so well. I was so proud of that whole moment. And my mother, who we affectionately called Yo-Yo, I was on the phone with her a few days later, and I was like, wow, did you see it? How was it? Blah, blah, blah. And she was like, هيدا البندو على راسي كتير بشع. That puts it in context. You know, God rest her soul. That was it. There was never any success that would please her. It's only really now, and she passed away, but my dad, because his friends tell him that they love what I do, that they've really mellowed down to it. But I didn't take the path that they were expecting me to take, so it took them a bit of time to appreciate it.
Raya, I'm not sure if you feel comfortable talking about this, but the struggle about your mother's illness and your career, if you want to just...
Yes. I mean, in 2007, my mother was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer, and of course, I wasn't living in Lebanon, and it added to the pressures of my career having to come back and forth to the UK, and when you have a career under the limelight, you also have to separate the two, be smiley on television and crying in between takes because your mother is dying. But that's life, you know. All of you will have careers, and all of you will have to juggle between your personal lives and your professional lives. And she was courteous enough to pass away during Ramadan when my show was off air, so I could come to the funeral and not miss one day on air, God forbid. I'm joking, you were supposed to laugh on this. It was very sad. But yes, you have personal struggles all the time.
Okay, next question. Right there. Right there. Okay, she chose over there. That's fine. You're the president.
This is like press conferences at the Cannes Film Festival. It's like an auction.
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Maroon Ibrahim. So I want to ask you, what is your definition of success?
Loving what you do and doing what you love, and never doing it for the wrong reasons. Money is important, but to me, the priority is for me to be able to tell my daughter stories when she grows up about my career and the successes I've accomplished. So do things for the right reasons, and this is what makes you successful. You don't have to be a television presenter in Hollywood to be defined as successful. You can be successful in your own microcosm. A woman entrepreneur is a success story in her own world. Everybody who does, every person who does what they're set to do and do it well is a definition of success for me. And that also means a mother who has decided herself to stay at home and take care of her children, and it makes her success as a mother her own personal success, as long as you are convinced that you are doing what you love and that you love what you do.
My definition of success? Okay.
Not getting hungry on the exam.
Okay, if you're happy, I'd consider that successful, but my definition of success is when you're satisfied with your life. When you sleep at night and there's nothing here at the back of your head bugging you, then you're successful.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Where are we? Yeah, right there.
Oh, hey,
Hi.
you earned it.
My name is Rafi. I'm Algerian as well.
Salut.
So coming here to AUD or meeting you, it wasn't a thing that I ever thought it would happen, and it's happening now. So when I grew up watching your show, so I really consider you as an idol. I want to do TV
Thank
presenter
you.
in the future. When I was preparing to come to AUD, my mom had a stroke, and she got paralyzed for 1 week. And she's fine on that. So she's
Salimta.
So I started doing political science because I thought it's better, and my parents would find it, our son is doing political science, so I'm doing media. My question is, what makes a good TV presenter?
In my book, a good TV presenter is the complete opposite of a good actress. I think I built a career for myself because I have always been myself. If you're meeting me today, you probably recognize the person you've always seen on television. That is my personal definition. It's not everybody's, and you have other successful TV presenters that feel differently. But I think if you can find a brand for yourself, if you can be unique, if you can be known for something. I am known as the only one who doesn't wear makeup. Yes, I ticked a brand. I am myself. That's why a show like Got Talent was very suited to me, because I could react spontaneously to the candidates. And I remember that year, and I'm not going to name names, but I'm just drawing a parallel. I came here and there was a television show that was similar. There were candidates, and there was a candidate very excited who came in because they had won, and the presenter, because her profile was not right on the other side, was not looking at the candidate. She kept talking. She ignored him completely, and she completely missed out on the vibe of his win. It's a reality show. So to be a good TV presenter for me is to be real and to have enough background information and to know what you're good at. Again, I come back to the fact that I did not grow up with the Arabic musical ear. I don't know a lot of Arabic songs. So if you ask me to host a show like The Voice or Arab Idol, where it's all about the Arabic music, I am not going to feel it the same. And so I am not suited to that kind of show. That's it. Be yourself, know your identity, and project it on the screen. Don't try to be like someone else.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. So nice to meet you.
We're going to stick to 1 hour, so we still have 25 minutes.
Oh, see, it goes fast when they start asking questions, and I'm not talking narcissistically about myself.
Go ahead, David.
Hello, my name
Hello.
is Rowan Masfoudi.
Hi,
I don't
Raya.
know if it's gonna bother you, but I wanna ask, when your mom got sick and you're doing your job, so didn't you feel like you're doing less than what you should do? How did you deal with it?
I dealt with it the best way I could. I tried to be here as much as possible. The story of her dying is all the more sad. By the way, it doesn't bother me. It's been 10 years, and the sadness never leaves you. I'm sure a lot of you lost close ones, and the sadness never leaves you. But life has to go on in a way. So I was at the Venice Film Festival, and my sister called me, out of the blue. She said, if you want to see your mother one last time, you have to jump on the next plane. And I do some, I work in entertainment, so it's a completely fluffy life. And I did. I came. I saw her till the last breath, and her last words to me were "ما في شي يا ريا." That was typically my mother, and it was a turning point in my life. You know, my mother wasn't there. She didn't witness all the happy moments that came after. She was already dead when Got Talent started. She never met my husband. She never met my daughter. It's very sad, but I really feel like losing her gave me a little bit of wings and kind of a guardian angel. I mean, it's a little bit spiritual to talk like that, but I feel that she's somewhere looking after me. And ever since, I've had all the more successes after she passed. I feel like there's a positive vibe following me after the whole negativity of losing a parent at such a young age. She was 62. She was too young to die. And I'm sorry for all of you who have lost close ones. I'm sure there's many in the room.
Go ahead.
Hello, my name is
Hello.
Mazen.
Salut.
Okay, I just have to ask, because you're clearly a very self-actualized person, and I have massive respect for Super Raya. I really enjoy
Thank
the show.
you.
So I have to ask, people like you usually, clearly your suffering has built your character, but did you ever feel like there was a breaking point in your career, and you had to, and it was make or break in a way? It was a very, and you felt like you were maybe going down the wrong career path. Did you ever doubt what you were doing?
Actually, to be fair, no. I always knew that this was the right thing to do because I didn't initially choose it. I never thought I'd be a TV presenter. The first time someone... do you guys know John Sad, or he's not famous anymore? Apparently not. 20 years ago, there was this show called The Music Show with John Sad. It used to air on MTV, and this is where John, who was my colleague at the radio station, spent, I think, 3 hours trying to convince me to host this music news thing, and I really resisted it. I'm like, what do you mean? I don't want to do TV. It was never something I had planned for myself. And I remember the first day where the camera was on me and how I reacted to the camera. There was this feeling of familiarity that made it quite effortless for me. And so, yes, there were a lot of obstacles through, and I never thought I would have this career in television, to be honest. But I really felt deep down in my heart that this was the right thing. Similarly, in parallel, I was studying economics at USG, and I really felt that it was the wrong thing for me. I did it because I had to do it, and I finished my major because I needed to. But did I enjoy a second of it? Absolutely not. So I was lucky to find the path, but I worked very hard at it. It was not enough to have a talent. You have to nourish your talent. You have to grow your talent. You have to be patient. I don't believe in those 15 minutes of fame, and obviously we'll get to the subject of social media, but social media is giving the wrong idea to people at the moment that, you know, it's so easy. It's really not. And it bugs me that social media makes it look easy.
And one more question.
Go.
Never mind. Thank you.
Really? I'm happy to hear it. Was it controversial?
No.
Really? Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Mustafa.
So first, hello, I'm Mustafa Khattab, a biology student.
Hi, Mustafa.
Okay, so welcome to UB.
Welcome back to uni, yay.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm not an AUB major, but what was I thinking? This is such an amazing place. Yeah, sorry. Okay.
In your career, you interview Hollywood stars. In short, our role models. And I'm a fan of Hollywood. Okay. So I cannot imagine the stress you are put through throughout your career. And you seem to manage very well to cope with the stress. And you have very good communication skills. So my question for you is, do you think your communication skills were innate because for example, your extrovert personality? Were they acquired throughout your education, or were they acquired throughout your social interactions?
It's all three. as I was saying earlier to Maroon, I never expected to be a TV presenter, but then I started remembering that when I was, younger, I used to take a shampoo bottle or deodorant and speak to the mirror and like host things. So it was innate, but I just didn't notice it. I was focused on other things and on what the environment was expecting from me. When this first camera came on me, it was really the feeling that this is something that I can very effortlessly do. And sometimes these days I'm on an overnight flight and I go host a big event in front of sometimes 100,000 people. You put me on that stage and something in me clicks in, and I don't know what it is. I can only explain it as being a talent that I have to communicate. But I think with experience, I got better. With interaction with people, I got better. With aging, I got better. Of course, 20 years ago, I was not the journalist I am today. If you look at my first interviews, I'm sure they're probably more enthusiastic, but I think they're better now. I hope so. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Sulaiman. When I asked you if you could start all over again, what would you do differently?
Ooh la la. I would tell my younger self to be a little bit more patient. It's not a quality of mine, patience. Like many of you, I always felt like a failure is the end of the world and felt negatively about it. I wish I knew back then that I was carving, that life had a way to show me my way. But I don't think I would like to do anything differently. I have enjoyed every minute of what I've done, and I feel extremely blessed, and I never take it for granted at all. I feel very blessed, A, to have the career that I have, and B, to have the response of the people towards me. So I would probably eat less cream cakes, because that's been a big failure of my life, not being a size 0. But hey, I focused on other things. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi,
hey.
I'm Ida Bond. I'm still in grade 7.
Hey. Yes, I was like, you're a little bit young for uni, but you might be a genius.
Hey, a genius.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's my twin sister too.
Hey.
So I wanted to ask you, who was the person who encouraged you in your life?
When I first started in radio, I had also started in, again, I feel like this was all 20 years ago, but there was a supplement in Lorient Le Jour called Lorient Le Jour des Copains. Have you ever heard of it? No, of course not. I started writing in a newspaper. At the same time I started in radio, I started writing. And all this because I wanted to make pocket money to travel, to be completely fair. It all happened by mistake for me. And there was a woman called Naila Defrege who was very hard on me. And because she was so tough on me, she was very motivational. She always wanted me to do better. Somehow she knew I had the potential to do better. And she was one of the people that, in the beginning of my career, really pushed it for me. Thank you.
Okay, next, all the way in the corner.
Hi.
Hey.
Oh. Hi, I'm Nicholas. I'm a graduate student in rural development, and you're in the domain. You do these interviews. You know movies and so on and so forth. I know that we don't have a movie industry in Lebanon. It's a movie scene, let's say. It doesn't have to compare even with Europe, with the German industry and so on. But how do you assess the Lebanese movie scene in the past 10 to 20 years? Because as we can see, there is a little bit of progress.
A teeny bit. We were only just going to win an Oscar this year, just a teeny bit.
Yeah, I would like to know more about your views.
Well, actually, it's a good point. Nadine Labake and I have been friends from teenage years, basically. So people think her success came, as we're talking about things coming slowly, people think her success came so quickly and all these things, but actually I have watched her throughout the years grow as a filmmaker, make movie after movie, and go to Cannes in the beginning just to watch movies if they let her in, and then all of a sudden she's the head of the jury in the Un Certain Regard category. So she's the best example of the success that we have as an industry. And of course, there is not enough support for cinema to be a full industry in Lebanon, because we have to explain to people with a little bit of, traditional mentality, that it is, as you said, an industry, that a good movie can hire the GDP of a country, that in America movies contribute to the wealth of people. It starts with that, but if you compare it to 10 years ago, it's gone so much better, not only in Lebanon, but in the Arab world. All of a sudden, there is focus on cinema, there's attention to cinema, there is appreciation and excitement for cinema. Even me, this year, it was my 20th time covering the Oscars, and in the last 2 years, I was, super excited because we had a nominee from Lebanon, Nadine, my friend who we grew up with. We had like boyfriends who were friends, and that's how we knew each other. All of a sudden, her and I are at the Oscars, it was completely surreal. And I'm very proud of that. And I do believe that with this focus on cinema and this attention to cinema, and hopefully the financial support, because in terms of cinema and the region, money talks. If we give financial support to cinema, we will grow as an industry, because the difference between us and Hollywood is that we have interesting stories to tell. And that is priceless. In Hollywood, all they want to do at the moment is sequels to the same thing, because they don't know. I mean, the best writing in Hollywood at the moment is in television, not really in cinema. In cinema, it's Avengers number, I don't know what number it is, 5, 4, 6, 10. I can't remember what they're about. Don't tell anyone. We have an Avengers special on Scoop this Sunday, but that's because I'm sold to Hollywood.
Hi. Hello.
I think it's 4, Avengers 4, if I'm not mistaken.
My name is Jad, and very recently I withdrew Dr. Kaafarani's course because I didn't do very well.
Because I now have a note. I'm going to call it the Bilal note, my failures in life. I'm going to save it, I usually do to-do lists on these notes, and now I have my failures. Tick, tick, tick.
So this talk comes at a very appropriate time.
Okay.
Thank you. Keep advertising for my course.
As we say in Hollywood, there's no publicity like bad publicity, so you can badmouth him and he'll get like 20 more students next week.
Okay. My question is after you go through a tough time, after you go through a failure, what's your coping mechanism, and how did you develop that coping mechanism?
I answered a little bit this question earlier. The coping mechanism is to work harder at making other things happen, to just evaluate what went wrong and the reasons why it went wrong, and work at making it better and going through a different stage in life. Now that I'm 42, and now that I'm at this age, I know that things are like storms. The storm passes. When there's a bad moment, the storm will pass, because this is life. You can't have one failure that's going to determine the rest of your life when you're in your 20s. It's of course, you have to feel it, and you guys are too young to feel it. But with my experience, it always passes. Something always, I always compare it to boyfriends. You have a heartbreak, you'll meet someone else.
All the way to the front, please. Right here.
Hi, hello.
Hey.
I'm Sarah. I'm a medical imaging sciences student. And I was wondering, you were raised a Francophone, Lebanese, and lived in London for a really long time. And so, having gone through all of these cultures, how were you able to make a decision that's right for you, not just in conformity with a specific culture, be it Lebanese or British or etc.?
Well, I mean, as my husband will tell you, you can take the girl out of Beirut, but not Beirut out of the girl, especially in my driving in London. I do U-turns in places, and you have like very poised English people looking at me like I'm come from another planet. So I now have they tell me, oh, you're now English. I will never be English. It's not my culture. It's a culture that I admire, but in my blood, I am a very hot-blooded Lebanese, that's for sure. But throughout the years, I did realize that I have a hybrid identity. I am from Lebanon. I enjoy Anglo-Saxon culture. I live in London. I'm married to an Italian. I'm exposed to a lot of diversity in my life. And this is what makes up my own personality. There are a lot of things in Lebanon that used to bother me. I'm still very bothered by smoke. I don't go anywhere. I hate smoking, and it drives me crazy. I call it #smoke evasion scheme, and I fail every time. That's a very good failure. I fail at finding a non-smoking restaurant. That's for sure.
You're going to find one tonight.
Yes, good. I told you this, right? You said a restaurant. I said my only thing is not smoking. So it makes up, there's a lot of elements in me. Definitely my ambition and competitiveness are very Lebanese. I mean, I'm sure everybody recognizes it. But there's a lot of things I admire in a lot of cultures. So I believe that I'm a bit of a citizen of the world in a way, but I don't deny any of it. There are things that make me feel very Lebanese, and there are things that I do not agree with Lebanon, that I agree with living in the UK and the values, not Brexit, and voila, it makes up. But I've been living in the UK for 20 years, and I still feel that I have more of a culture clash with Britain than I do with Italy, for instance. I feel like they're Lebanese, my married family, my husband's family, make me feel like I'm at home. So it's good to explore. It's good to speak several languages, and it's good to know from everywhere in the world what you really like. I love a lot of things about America, and I don't like a lot of things about America. Of course, Trump, of course. And so, you know, I can't generalize. I feel like I'm a hybrid of a lot of things, and I think everybody is, in a way.
Okay. In the back, over in the back.
Hi. Here. Hello.
Hello. Yes, it's ladies first. I'm sorry. Yes.
My name is Jad Saab.
Salut.
I have a question about the future. You said you haven't come back to Lebanon in such a long time.
Well, I mean, it depends what you define as a long time. For me, a long time is 4 months. You know, it's not the hijra kind of situation.
Well, do you see yourself ever coming back and settling here in Lebanon, or do you see yourself always staying in London?
I think in my personal circumstances, the plan B is Italy, because I married an Italian, and I am much more attuned with Italian culture than he is with Lebanese, although he loves the food here, and it's so I don't see myself coming back to Lebanon, but I don't see myself being away from Lebanon for any long period of time, and I'm sure I would feel much more missing of my country if I didn't have the great opportunity to be able to come back so often. And by the way, one of the reasons why I chose the UK versus America for my master's was because it was only one plane away. And it's difficult to cut the umbilical cord, and I never really have. But I come back now for the right reasons. I come back to work, and so I am, when I grew up, it was very social. I mean, you guys understand how we grew up in Lebanon, and we have our friends, our parents' children, and all these things. I felt a little bit restricted with that. Now I come back, and the environment of production at MBC is people from all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of religions, all sorts of lives, and I'm very motivated by them. I'm very impressed by their work and their talent, and I feel that I come back to Lebanon to see the real Lebanon, not the Lebanon that people want to show off, and I'm much more attuned to that side of the country.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Eva.
How old are you? Okay.
Hi, sweetheart.
The first time you met a celebrity, how did you feel? And every time you feel them, like, every time you see them, like, do you feel like they're like your friends?
Well, they're all my friends. They're all on. There was a promotion for Scoop with Raya in the first season that Will Smith was calling me on my phone. Not true, he does not call me on my phone. But he does recognize me when he sees me, because I've interviewed him a lot. The first bit of the question is, do you know who Tom Cruise is, or he's not? You know who he is? Mission Impossible? When I grew up, when I was your age, Tom Cruise, I was completely in love with him. He was like my poster boy. And so the first time I met him, although I had done a lot of big interviews before him, it was Tom Cruise. If you Google that interview, my face was like a banadura. I was like I was acting very professional and detached, like I usually do, but my face was red. So he wasn't the first interview I did, but he was definitely the first interview I looked like a groupie fan with. It's very funny. I've interviewed him since and did not have the same reaction, but I had such a crush on him when I was a kid, and he was in front of me. But that was it. And remind me the second bit of the question. Sorry? Oh, are they like my friends? A lot of them know me and know me by name, but I feel that it's unprofessional to mix the two worlds. Sometimes, for instance, I'm on the plane and they're sitting next to me and they're, trying to chit chat. I feel very embarrassed in those situations because I don't feel like mixing what we call business and pleasure. Usually, I prefer to keep the rapport, especially with the celebrities, quite professional because I feel that it's the best way to get good interviews with them. My job is not to be a celebrity friend. I'm a celebrity interviewer, and it's a completely different thing. And my life, my real life, is completely different from what Hollywood is. I take my daughter to nursery in my pajamas. I take the bus in London, and then you have fans from the Arab world that like making bets if it's me or if it's not, and I don't say anything. I would prefer my personal life to be as normal as possible because I don't want my daughter to be exposed to it. She saw me on television last Saturday, and she just couldn't understand why I wasn't standing next to her. Is this mommy? And then she was completely confused.
Okay, let's take questions from this side, please. Go ahead.
My name is Rawan.
Hi, Rawan.
First of all, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm very glad that
Same
I
here.
in person after watching you through the virtual screen, through television, basically. My question is, what are the challenges that you faced in your career, basically? Did you face like rejections before being a TV presenter? What are the stages you passed through before like being what you are today? So, and like, sometimes you face like people do not trust that you have the skill to do this. They want like 7 years experience before like giving you the chance to be on screen. So yeah, that's my question. Thank you.
Well, as I said, the first year after my university master's in London, my best friend and I had a pile of letters of rejection from everything we had applied to. It was, of course, a question of experience. It was a question of background. It was a question of everything. So I did face that. I did face for many years the fact that we were from the Middle East and we didn't have the same access in Hollywood as we do today. But there was another reason to that. I mean, we just very quickly dismiss it as because it's from the Middle East. But the reality is that also 10 years ago, the movie theaters in the Middle East were not as many. Now the UAE is the #1 market. Saudi is opening, is going to be a huge flagship market. And all of a sudden, Hollywood is all about business. So the reason why we didn't have access is because we didn't buy enough movie copies for them to watch. So you also have to understand there's circumstantial element to what was happening. And then 9/11 happened the first year I started at MBC, and that was also a very hindering factor. I remember being in the makeup room and we were going to film something, and then I saw the second plane hit the towers, and I said out loud, jokingly, "Oh, if this is from the Middle East, we're screwed." And indeed. So it was, those were the kind of main challenges, the start of the career and the continuation. Keeping a show on air for, 15 years took a lot of energy from me and Woody Woodpeckering, as I call myself.
The gentleman right there.
Hi. First of
Hello.
all, you're like meters away from me.
I am so far, but you've seen me up close earlier.
My question is that you have everything to become a host in Hollywood. So, do you ever think of leaving the Arab world for good and become a host in Hollywood?
I love Europe. So if I had a preference into a next step of my career, it would probably be for a talk show somewhere in Europe and not in Hollywood. But I do find that in the last years, there are a lot of interesting things happening in the Middle East that keep me in it. A, the flourishing of the cinema industry. B, the opening of cinemas in countries like Saudi, where all of a sudden, it becomes a great thing. For me, the experience of watching a film on the big screen is so unique that I'm very happy that our young Saudi viewers are going to have this opportunity and have this opportunity. So I am so busy and I have so much going on that I don't really think of the future. But if I had to choose, I would prefer to do something in an international network in Europe versus America. I love Hollywood as an industry. but it's a bubble, and in a way, my colleagues who do a little bit the same thing in LA, they can't really disconnect from the obsession of celebrities. Of course, if you have dinner with me and my colleagues, we only talk about that, and we only talk about what he did and what he's doing and all these things because it's our job. But at the end of the day, we come back home and we have different lives and different tastes and different things that we want to do, and I find that much more healthy than living in Hollywood and like breathing celebrities so much that you can't detach from it. So my preference would be Europe, or I'm quite happy with what's going on in the Middle East. I come back to the fact that when I started with MBC, I was a little bit, I wouldn't say snobbish, but it wasn't exactly what I wanted, and I wasn't delighted with getting an opportunity at MBC, and look what we've done in the last 15 years. I've seen it become such a huge channel, and I was part of it, so it was a very lucky strike on my part, although I didn't really know it at the time. So let life guide you to things that may happen to you a little bit by chance.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Mimi. I'm a media student.
Hi, Mimi.
First, thank you for showing us that our identity doesn't define who we are.
Yes.
So thank you.
And your environment as well.
Yes. I have a question. As a media student going out to the media industry, I don't know if, but I believe that each one of us as Middle Eastern will sometime face this issue. Have you ever faced a moment where a guest of yours refused to be interviewed just because you're Middle Eastern, and how did you cope with it? That's one. And my second question is, do you think that in our age, beauty is key for a media presenter to be successful? Thank you.
They're both very good questions. The first one is, because I work in Hollywood, and Hollywood is all about political correctness, I have never been told you're not getting this interview because you're Middle Eastern. No one would ever write it on paper or in an email or anything. Sometimes celebrities cancel, change their mind, are sick, are not there, and it may have happened because I was from the Middle East, but it doesn't happen that way. They don't tell you, oh, you're Arabic, I don't want to be interviewed by you. So I've never faced that. And I know that doors open because people started liking me as a journalist, and the studios are very controlling. They watch us like spies. We call it movie junkets. So we sit down and they're listening, and this is what got me the access that I have today. The fact that they liked my interviews. I don't think it had to do initially with the fact that I was Middle Eastern, and I think it was just a way to open doors for myself through my talent as an interviewer versus my background. So that's first, and remind me of the second one. I got taken with, yeah, the beauty element. That's a very good question because, look at me, Botox every day. I think, of course, physical appearance is important to the job, but as a TV presenter, and I'll tell you who's the most famous TV presenter in the world, and what are you going to answer? Oprah, right? Everybody's going to answer Oprah. She's not Miss Monde. She's a beautiful-looking woman, but if you meet her, it's because of the electric celebrity that she has, the contagious energy that she gives you, and this is what made her popular. And I think the best TV presenters are those who have their own, as I was talking a little bit earlier to you, their own personalities that are infectious because of who they are recognizable because of their brand. And of course, my responsibility is to look good on camera, but sometimes I get criticized for not wearing a dress that pleases everybody. Do I care that much? I don't, because the only thing I want is for my appearance not to distract people from my presenting skills. I don't want them to feel that my dress is ugly so they don't focus on what I'm saying. My responsibility is to host well, and then if I can look well, I've fulfilled my full responsibilities. But is it a priority for me? No. I think I became successful not because of the way I look, but because of the talent I have. I hope so, but I like to think that. And oppositely, sometimes you look at girls that have had so much plastic surgery and makeup that you can't concentrate on anything else. Really, you're like بِتَلْتُ عيونك. There's so much makeup, there's so much going on that you can't listen to what they're saying. And for me, that's wrong. You have, I don't know, women on television who are presenting the news bulletin, and 150 people died in Iraq yesterday, and the Botox and the thing are, it doesn't make sense to me. To me, I feel like I'm criticizing, but to me, it's not the physical appearance, it's the soul of what you're presenting that is important as a television presenter.
Please go ahead.
Hi.
We
Hello.
went beyond the 1 hour.
It's okay, I mean, I'm fine, yes.
My name is Sana. I
Hi.
have 2 questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
The first is, what exactly was your job at first once you stepped into MBC, and how exactly did you transition from that into letting them fund your own show? And how did they see your abilities? That's question 1. Question 2 is, if Raya goes back in time 20 years, and you could give yourself an advice personally. La, 2. 1 personally, 1 professionally. What would that be?
I was hired by MBC to be a TV presenter. That was my contract, but I am also a producer, so what I started doing was also produce other shows on MBC. I offered my services as a producer as well. And then I started, doing sporadic interviews here and there, and then we realized there was enough content for us to do a whole show, and this is when they started financing it. MBC has always supported me a lot with budgets, and I'm very grateful for that, because I think that it's definitely the double effect of me and this channel that got us to where we are. I mean, MBC has a unique viewership as well. We address 350 million viewers. I mean, it's a very unique case of a television being at MBC. And so this is how it happened. 20 years ago, as I said, I already a bit answered that question. I would advise myself to be a little bit more patient and to understand that things in life, in life you have to earn it. And it doesn't come in 5 seconds. And I said eat less cream cakes. I'll change it. Eat less hamburgers.
Go ahead. Yeah. Now they got
Hey.
the hunger.
Mabruk. We're so proud of you.
Thank you. Okay, are you satisfied with what you've accomplished in your career, or do you have future plans and future dreams for the future?
Well, if you stop dreaming, you're taking things for granted, basically. I hope that I will keep learning. That's the most important thing for me, not to get to a stage where I feel like I've done it all. I feel it's important to go through experiences that teach you something. Small example, in 2 days, on Wednesday, I'm going with the UNHCR to the refugee camps in Trablus. I didn't even know the refugee camps were in Trablus. I thought they were all in the Bekaa. When I've done it, ايه البقعة فيها كل شيء بس أنا رايحة على طرابلس. أنت من البقعة؟ Meeting those people when I went to the Zaatari camps in Jordan, there was a group of girls called the Tiger Girls, and they really stayed with me. They teach you something. They inspire you to do a little bit better. They humble you. You're never on top of the world in life. There's always going to be something that's going to ground you, and it's very important to always feel like that, and to go through experiences that change you, that make you look at things differently, that make you feel like you want to contribute to something in life. Akid.
Go ahead, please. Let's restrict it to 3 more questions. Okay? Go ahead.
Hello. I'm here.
Hey.
No, it's like
Oh, well, sorry, because I see a microphone. I'm sorry. Oh, hey. You.
My name is Bilal, and I'm a graduate engineering student.
Hi, Ri.
You said at the early of your conversation that you worked hard to collect your pocket money in order to come
Yes.
to UK.
Yes.
So do you believe, or do you still believe that the opportunities are not located in our region? Or?
It's not that. It's just that sometimes you want to feel that you have a different experience in life. And I felt for me, because I had been fired from my radio job age 21, that it was the end of the world, and I wanted to change country to feel better about myself. There are a lot of opportunities in this country, and if you feel at ease here, there is absolutely nothing wrong with staying. In my case, I am someone who really enjoys traveling around the world and understanding different cultures. So it's something in my heart felt like I wanted to explore something different, that I was being a little bit restricted in the social environment I grew up with in here. And I was right. I was right. But my sister stayed here and she's very happy in Lebanon and she enjoys all the great elements of Lebanon. And we both grew up in the same country. And I don't think I have a better life. I just think that we chose different paths. And that's what's important. Again, you know, if people around you tell you, oh no, you have to go to America to be successful, it's wrong. You can be successful in your own backyard if you're doing what you're good at. And it's very important to know that. Some people are more at ease in a small environment and some people flourish in a bigger environment. It's a question of personality. And I don't believe any person in this room is like the other. So every person in this room has to find their, you know, what makes them tick.
Go ahead.
Hi.
Hey.
My name is Dana. I'm a correspondent from Untitled English and I'm writing about you.
Hey.
So I had a question about, it's very obvious that you're honest, you're an open book with the media, which can be risky sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you deal with like the media pressures of acting a certain way? How do you, like it's like you made the media accept you as you are because we know there are certain expectations to act in a certain way from media.
I believe there's a responsibility about what you say, especially now with social media. So I, for instance, have a specific rule. I'm an entertainment journalist. I never tweet about anything political. There's a lot of political opinions that I have, but I don't share them because it's not the responsibilities of my job on camera. However, I think it's very important to be organic and to talk about things in a real way, especially in this day and age of social media where people are making it a business to construct a fake image of what life is all about. And it's refreshing to be real. And I am fortunate enough that I'm in a position where I can be real. You know, people often ask me that silly question about why don't you put too much makeup? I don't put too much makeup because I want people to recognize me, not have a mask or something or be like a criteria of beauty that people think is a criteria of beauty. For me, beauty is natural. For me, beauty is being yourself. And you may like my face or not, but this is my face. This is me. So I always choose to be quite candid. But I am aware of the responsibility of what you're saying. And there are colleagues of mine through social media who have said silly things that have cost them their career. And I don't encourage that because, you know, it was not silly things for the right reason. It was silly things just because they became a little bit too vain or they became a little bit too narcissistic and they thought they were above it all. It's very important to stay humble and grounded in our job because, you know, you never know what happens tomorrow and you have to be prepared because media, like athletes, like any job that doesn't have a very long lifespan, anything can change, you know, night and day. And voila, it's the responsibility of knowing how to balance what you say, but within staying as real as possible.
Go ahead. The lady sitting in the back right here. She's sitting on the
Hi.
stairs.
No, I saw you this time.
Well, what I would like to ask you is that do you think connections and networking is fundamental to reach a position where you would be considered successful? To reach success in general, does it need someone that has a known position you have to be in contact with so that he could or she could pave you the way?
Do you know how I got into MBC? No? I sent a letter through the post to the HR department, addressed attention HR. I believe that connection may be important, but if you don't have the right talent, it doesn't matter what gets you through the door. It's really your talent that keeps you in the door. I believe networking, on the other hand, is important, especially in media and communication and in any job you're at. If you're very shy about your talent, maybe people will not notice it and then you might miss out on something that you're worthy of. So it's different. Connection and networking are two different things to me. Connections, yes, but not in my career. It's never happened because of connections. It was not how I got through the door, it's how I stayed in. But networking, definitely very important in any position.
The last question.
The last question. You better make it good. Hey.
My name is Wael.
Salut.
So you mentioned about writing a book.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Writing.
Okay. Yes. I'm a very, very bad writer.
Oh, okay.
So maybe I'll get a ghostwriter because no, I'm
So
joking.
if you had the opportunity of writing, what's one thing you could tell us the difference between Raya the writer and Raya the journalist? And if you were to write a story of the book of your life, what would the title be?
Ooh la la, the boredom, hashtag boredom would be the title of the book of my life. I am a very bad writer, and if I write, it could maybe be about the experiences of meeting so many celebrities, but it's not something I am excited to do, basically. I've been asked a couple of times, but I don't know that I have enough stories. It's a little bit very formulaic to interview celebrities for their movies, you know. I don't have, they always ask me, what's a fun story? You know, did Will Smith go to the bathroom during your interview? I mean, it doesn't happen like that. It's very well lit and it's very well prepared and it's talking about a movie and stuff like that. So technically it's set up to be magical, Hollywood. My talent as a writer is inexistent. I am someone, even as a reader, I love to read books, but I find myself in an audiovisual format. And to come back to my background, my sister is the complete opposite. She doesn't really... My sister is someone who has no idea what the Friends series is or who Jennifer Aniston is. Maybe you don't either. I keep giving references of it. Yeah, of course you do. Okay. She doesn't. She has no idea. She's read every single French book that exists. And she lived you know, in the fantasy of books all her life and became a doctor. So people are different. I know that my talent is not in writing. It's not something I enjoy doing. I did a bit of written journalism in the beginning, but they really had to chase me up because I didn't. It's the passion I have for sitting down with someone, for hosting something, for communicating verbally with people is not something I can do in writing.
Well, let's thank Raya for such a beautiful
Thank you.
We have a tradition to hand in the poster of the presenter.
Oh, yes, yes.
We take a group picture.
I'm going to put it on Instagram. Hashtag I'm not a narcissist.
May I ask my team to join me here, and then Kali Faris will be taking interviews on your way up. So my team, join me here, please. Thank you.
Thank you.